Good morning, everyone. My name's Colette Brennan. I'm an ISPA board member, co-chair of this Congress and CEO of the Abbotsford Convent in Melbourne, Australia. I would like to begin, of course, by thanking the Banff Centre for Arts and Creativity for sponsoring all of the provocations. And I just need to remind you that after this provocation, there's a 30-minute break so you can all have a good catch-up and a chat. So I am tremendously proud to introduce you to Yaron Lifschitz, Artistic Director and CEO of Circa from Brisbane, Australia. I'm from Brisbane, and at the start of my career, at the start of my career when Yaron arrived in Brisbane from Sydney to join Circa in 1999. At the time, Circa was known as Rock and Roll Circus and was a significant local organisation. Over this time, I saw Yaron transform the organisation from being locally loved to a global phenomenon. I had the privilege of witnessing him and the company grapple with form and push the boundaries of what circus could be and what a company with targeted and meaningful ambition could become. Yaron is deeply interested in the world, in poetry, and in the challenges of living life meaningfully. He is tireless in pursuing the moments that make art transformative for audiences and deeply generous in his vulnerabilities. He is a leader, as relentless in the pursuit of delivering budgets that can ensure his artists can make a living, through to developing governance structures that enable boards to think meaningfully about the arts. Yaron is a graduate from the University of New South Wales, University of Queensland and the National Institute of Dramatic Arts, where he was the youngest director ever accepted into its prestigious Graduates Directors course. Since graduating, Yaron has directed over 60 productions, including large-scale events, opera, theatre, physical theatre and circus. His work has been seen in 40 countries and across 6 continents by over 1 million people. And he's won numerous awards, including 6 Helpman Awards and the Australia Council Theatre Award. Yaron himself has traversed many borders. As an immigrant moving from South Africa to Australia, as a theatre director who has persevered to take a small company in Brisbane, who he says no one was ringing, into a global player. He is delightful, insightful, thoughtful, challenging, and deeply kind. Please welcome my friend Yaron to the stage.
Thank you, Colette, for your beautiful words. Now, yesterday I was in this room pitching Leviathan, our show with a cast of 36 people. And the number 36 was chosen because in the Talmud, it tells us of the Lamed Vav, the 36 righteous people on whom the fate of the world is said to rest. Now, having been out with many of you over the past few nights, I think righteous is possibly pushing the envelope a little bit. However, I do like to think of this room as an important gathering, and I'd like us to talk for the next little while as if we might have some impact on the fate of the world. As the artistic director of Circa, a company from Brisbane, Australia, that makes something called contemporary circus, being here is improbable and astonishing. And improbable and astonishing are apt words for the world that I see around me. And here's a weird fact that meets these criteria as well. All the data in the world, every book, every score, every element of human production, from the caves to the billions of ones and zeros in our phones in this room right now, every single piece of human data ever produced, of this, at least 90% was created in the last 2 years. I take from this that we are far smaller, more ignorant, and more limited than we imagine. All of us think we know stuff, when we are, statistically speaking, specks of ignorance floating in an exponentially increasing sea of incomprehension. And today that incomprehension is serious, possibly existential. What we don't know might just kill us. We are facing unparalleled challenges with intellectual, ethical, and spiritual tools that are shabby, out of date, and overwhelmed by the sheer scale of things. Today, I want to argue that art, and how we see it and present it, is a vital part of updating our toolkit, that art can help us face our future and remake that future. Now, as you know, I come here from a country that is ablaze. As a result of human-caused climate change, my home Australia is experiencing the worst bushfires in recorded history. As I departed through the haze, I reflected on how the fires have created a palpable sense of disquiet. They've roused our nation from its apathetic slumber. It's not clear whether the political climate will change as much as the environmental climate demands that it must, but something has happened. And I also reflected on what an extraordinarily beautiful set of sunsets the fire had created, and how we were lucky, which is an obscene usage of the word, to have an aesthetically impactful disaster on our hands. Photogenic had found a home on the front pages of the media and social media feeds and newspapers around the world. It roused celebrities who managed to virtue signal even as they missed the point. Australia is rich. We don't need charity or fundraisers. We need deep, lasting, effective climate policy to stop our country and the rest of the world burning. Thank you. The political impact of fires is not separate from their aesthetic charge. They matter because they are powerful, dramatically visual, striking events. And while our legacy festivals and heritage companies present their traditional rounds of nutcrackers and novelty touring productions, an authentic, fierce, Promethean drama is roaring through the countryside. Now, Greta Thunberg said that this is no time for grey thinking. Only black and white will do. We need certainty and action. And when it comes to stopping our Pacific neighbours being drowned, splitting the infinitives of policy nuance is really just criminal neglect and future theft. But the great post-Holocaust poet Paul Celan implored us to leave yes and no unsplit. Art and culture can't be about pre-digested positions and simplicities. The stage, the art gallery and the concert hall must be safe places to do the cultural thinking, complex cultural thinking, the sort that invigorates, excoriates and impassions us. If you have no grey thinking, you don't have Shakespeare or Jane Austen or the Greeks. When Oedipus discovers that he's both protagonist and antagonist, villain and victim, we have culture, debate, meaning, humanity, but we don't have straightforward answers. These opposites are unreconcilable. Trauma and beauty, astonishment and improbability, strong action and nuanced reflection. But we have to try, and culture may be our best hope, because culture enables us to communicate across borders, to meet others, to share stories, to forge new languages and win fresh understandings. The word sonder is a relatively new noun for the realisation that each passerby, each random passerby, is living a life as vivid and complex as one's own. What a magnificent concept. Art at its core is a sondering. And this is what the fires have done for us in Australia. They have put us in a collective state of sonder. Suddenly, we are unbound by our own borders. We are empathetically receptive to the other. And empathy is a creative act. It requires that we can project ourselves into somebody else's reality. This gift of empathy may be art's highest purpose and its most necessary and urgent offering. I came to the theatre as a calling. I'm almost uniquely unqualified. I can't dance, act, or sing. But I was bewitched by a moment. As the lights went down, a bolt of electricity goes through the room and anything in the world seems possible. Moments later, the lights come up and people started talking and gesticulating, and I never really got what happened then. But I wondered what would happen if we could keep that moment alive. So I looked and studied. I wended my way in 20 years circuitously through events, opera, circus and theatre, and landed up in the circus, where I've been ever since. Jump forward to 2012. We've created a show called How Like an Angel, and it's featuring for the Cultural Olympiad for the London Olympics. We're working with the Gramophone Award-winning ensemble I Fagiolini, a team of Circa's acrobats, under my direction, performing in cathedrals around the UK. And being promenade style and being kind of partly an impresario, I'm wandering around looking at audience flows and is everyone happy? When one night I decided to stand right in the middle. And there was this kind of average piece of stagecraft. It was really just a transition. One artist leant, another one came in, another one leant. It was kind of human Newton's cradle. And suddenly, standing in the middle of this space, I horripilated. That is, the hairs on the back of my neck literally stood on end. Because in the nave of the 11th century Norwich Cathedral, accompanied by the heavenly sounds of Victoria's Alma Redemptoris Mater, I realized that the whole audience was swaying as one, subconsciously, in time with the artists. The electricity was in that room. We sondered. And time again, I've had the privilege of sitting in the audience while Circa acrobats delivered a searing performance. Visceral, raw, a work of extreme, unalloyed physicality and emotion. And across the world, from Paris to Guadalajara, from Bathurst to Edinburgh, there is a collective intake of breath as the final curtain falls, a moment of release, followed by a roar of deep, authentic, heartfelt appreciation, true connection. And in complicated times, and this is the reason why I do what I do, this authentic and powerful moment seems to me a reminder of what we share and of how easily we might lose it. Our journey wasn't straightforward. As Colette mentioned, in '99 I joined Rock and Roll Circus. We lost funding, no one liked our work. For 6 years we got reviews that you couldn't write worse ones if you tried. My favourite was one that said, it was a review of somebody else's show, and it said, "It's great to see some work that, unlike our local company, does not seem intent on sucking the joy out of circus." So, suck the joy became a kind of rallying cry, because there was something alive, great people, a space, a few ideas. We became Circa, we made a show eventually people did like. By this time, our resources had dwindled to me and 3 acrobats. 15 years later, we have a full-time year-round ensemble, and I'm proud that we commit to paying performers all year round, regardless of whether they perform, holiday, or are recovering from the inevitable injuries that accompany being a circus artist. Our ensemble is 23 artists. We've been invited to join the operas and ballets of the Australian performing arts scene as a major performing arts company, something that excites and engages, but also slightly disconcerts me as I've railed against entrenched privilege and heritage arts that do not seem able to confront the future of the world. We perform around 400 shows across 15 countries a year. We've programmed the Commonwealth Games Arts Festival. We run touring for the state of Queensland. We deliver workshops and engagement programs to over 10,000 people a year. Our graduates and alumni have created a wave of contemporary circus that has been celebrated at festivals and venues around the world, and it's just the start. Wisdom, said Socrates, begins in wonder. And like all circuses, we at Circa can stack people 3 or 4 high. We can hang precariously, leap daringly, bend unrealistically, and balance improbably. But our superpower is this: we are intensely curious. The psychologist Adam Grant talks about the difference between a proving and an improving mindset. And Circa is an improving mindset. We love to pull things apart and figure out how to do them better. Our artistic mission is to ask harder questions. We like to treat our art like it's a business and our business like it's an art, looking for new ways, opportunities, and ideas. We recently rewrote our corporate purpose. We now exist to ask what is possible in circus. It's the question mark that keeps us honest. It's the question mark that drives us to find existing borders and cross them or redraw them or sometimes just ignore them. In a few hours, I'm going to not, unfortunately, be able to be at the closing reception of ISPA because I'll be on a plane. And the reason I'm on a plane is that we have 3 new creations opening in February, and I'll give you a brief tour of them. On the 8th of February, we'll open a new production of Wild Swans, a setting of Eleanor Katz-Chernon's ballet suite in front of 10,000 people at the Sydney Myer Music Bowl in Melbourne. The cast will feature no circus artists, but 60 young people with Down syndrome. As the parent of a special needs young adult, each day I see the pressing difference between their brilliant, rich inner lives and the often mundane, shelf-stacking opportunities that our society affords the neurodiverse. Wild Swans is a show about the power of the imagination to change lives in a form somewhere way beyond the outer reaches of ballet, circus, classical arts and disability arts. I have absolutely no idea what it is, but I know that it is a profound and moving experience for everyone involved. 2 weeks later, the Barbarians are truly being let through the gates as we open the Melbourne Symphony Orchestra's season in the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth, with the first, as far as I know, acrobatic setting of Beethoven's 9th Symphony. A small, little-known work, but it could catch on. 10 Circa acrobats will join orchestra, chorus and soloists to bring this anthem for humanity roaring to the stage. I've been jogging slowly and ungainly through pre-drawn streets in cities across the world to Beethoven's glorious, transformative, bombastic and absurdly ambitious symphony thundering in my ears, and each time I hear it, I get more inspired and more nervous. Projects like this come with no safety net. And of course, not enough time, not enough money. But when else could you perform with Beethoven? Halve the age of your audience. Bring 30% first-time attendees to the symphony and do something completely new. A week after that, in Perth, we will open Leviathan, and I don't want to go on because I've been mentioning it a bit, but it is a monster in both name and form. I'm proud of a lot of things about this. We have 2 teaching artists in Perth right now working, and I go back and walk off the plane to a rehearsal with 3 community groups working incredibly hard to make a beautiful show. We're working with Owen Belton, the composer, whose many of you will know his work with Crystal Pite's Betroffen Height Reviser and other pieces. I'm pleased to make a work that is a community work that's not trivial. It's a bleak and joyous cry. It's a celebration of what we can do together. We've structured this project to be a transformational project in all of its host cities, including Stanford, at Graz, at Brisbane, where visionary programmers have taken a gamble. None of these opportunities existed before. Only one is in a subscription season, and it's an outlier. Each requires belief, relationships, imagination, chutzpah. Each required us and our partners to overcome inherited cultural resistance. Contemporary circus is seldom the easiest of options, but it's a vital and valid one, and here's why. What is a border? It's a ceasefire line from the past. And it's the same with arts. Opera, ballet, classical music, rock, traditional, contemporary, modern dance, ballet, they are all divided by lines that do not exist. And it's time to erase them. We need new forms for new realities. We are on fire. Rising seas, rising fundamentalisms, rising inequalities, the decay of civic society, the transformation of infinite games to finite ones where compromise and nuance are replaced by desire for victory and the need for certainty. Our response has to be both, no time for grey, and leave yes and no unsplit. Tradition, said Gustav Mahler, is not the worship of ashes, but the preservation of fire. To preserve the fire of art, it needs to leap its current containment lines. Borders are the past, they are the ashes. The future is simply this: great work that speaks directly to humans. The American poet Donald Hall said, "A poem is a person on the inside talking to a person on the inside." And for me, all art aspires to the condition of poetry. Circus has taught me we can collaborate widely, connect deeply, and when we do, borders dissolve. In 2019, we were the first circus company ever to perform in the Salle Pierre Boulez at the Paris Philharmonie, We were the first circus company to perform in the extraordinary Hall of Palau de la Música in Barcelona. We've performed shows in cemeteries and cathedrals. We've collaborated with orchestras, string quartets, choirs, visual artists. We will continue and relentlessly ask what is possible. For ultimately, if we want a different future, we have to be able to imagine it. In the late 1960s, just a few years before Neil Armstrong set foot on the moon, a US poll asked respondents to rank government programs according to their importance. The Apollo space program came in second to last, outranked only by the perceived unimportance of federal support for arts and artists. Yet what do we remember from that era? One small step for man, and the extraordinary effusion of new, vibrant forms of artistic expression. Our imagination is bordered by what it knows. Artists work beyond these borders, and if they're right, they will change the world. In circus, we are lucky to work in the badlands beyond genre, where we rely neither on convention nor comprehension. Our work almost always sits out of all the sides there are. As our DNA is ancestrally connected to the world of entertainment, we are born with a single commandment tattooed inside of our eyelids: thou shalt not bore. Whatever else you do, do not bore your audience. And it's a lesson I think we can all learn. I hope I'm doing that now. As the genre of circus has deepened and widened, we are in a privileged position. We can help find new forms, breathe new life into stuttering old ones, and reinvigorate ideas. Now, I began with the fact that made us seem small. I'd like to end with the opposite. Indulge me for a moment in a thought exercise. Please look at somebody in the room. You don't have to touch them, I promise. Just visualize them. Don't tell them who they are. I want you to picture the longest thing in their body. Try to imagine its length and line it up against something you know. Is it as big as a small pencil? Is it as long as a door, a bathtub? Is it as high as the ceiling? How long is the longest thing in their body? In fact, in all of us, it's our DNA. And if we take each of the tiny packets of DNA in our cells and we unfurl them and we lay them end to end, each of us would reach not the ceiling, but rather we would span the solar system twice. As Walt Whitman said, we are large, we contain multitudes. We span the solar system twice, each of us. Imagine the thickets of connections, of entanglements, the discoveries, the journeys. The world is vast and mysterious, and we as artists and people who enable artists are noble guides who create the opportunity to imagine this and other worlds, to create this and other futures. The life of an artist is one lived with intensity and belief. It is difficult and fraught with insecurities and challenges. Not the least among these is the constant need to cross borders that do not yet exist, with passports that have yet to be written. But this is vital now as never before. The word courage is derived from the same Latin root as the French word for heart. And I wish everyone in this room and everyone at ISPA the strength and heart to venture boldly and with courage. Thank you.
I want to really give a very special thank you to Yaron. He didn't really make a big deal of it, but he changed around everything to be here and to be able to address you. So, Yaron, thank you. So we're going into about a 25-minute break right now. So enjoy. There's coffee and snacks out there. And thank you to Auerbach Pollock Freelander for sponsoring it.